Hello and welcome to Succeed Q&A Live. Maybe we should just keep the music running. No, let's switch it off. Welcome live to Succeed, the second Q&A of the Startup Succeed, which is all about educating leaders around the world. And our promise is that we want to build an ecosystem where we educate basically everyone who is interested in leadership education around the globe, and doing that over a long period of time, because our goal is to reach 1 billion people by 2030. January 2030, 1 billion people. And this Q&A is all about leading others. So the webinar last Saturday was about delegation. So we have already a couple of questions which we got from the community. And of course, you're welcome to let us know from where you join right now. I see that there are a couple of people watching it live. Just put into the comments. I will see if I can pop them up. Let me know from where you're joining, where you're watching this. If you're on YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on, I think Facebook, we are streaming live into a couple of groups as well. So let me know where you watch this. And if you have questions to leading others, basically leading others in a direct way, let me know. I will try to answer them either directly live in this live stream, or if I can't answer them, I will bring someone else on in the future who can answer your question. Let's start with the questions I got. Okay. Just to remember, everything was about delegating in the last webinar. And if you're interested into watching the webinar recording, it's all for free. Go to wearesucceed.com. Sign up and get all the different educational topics for free over the next coming years. Okay, first question. I don't feel comfortable in delegating. I can do the task I can do the task way faster myself. Why should I delegate to my team members? And that came from a leader, very important, or manager, someone responsible for leading a couple of people. And as the webinar was really basic, this is also a very basic question. I think it's very, very important if you are a manager to enable your employees or your teammates to take the task forward, to contribute to the wider context of the department. If you do everything yourself, if you believe you are the best person in doing it, then you're kind of taking the energy away from your teammates. It's very, very important that you as a leader have a wider responsibility than finishing a specific task. Step back, empower your team members to do the task they're supposed to do. Because a lot of times leaders are grown into the leadership or manager role due to the fact that they have been very good in what they did before, and then they got to the next level, and that means forgetting. Maybe a little story. When I grew up, in a business sense, I had a very, very good manager and very good mentor. And he was telling me when I got to the next level, I was then a manager on a country level. What he was saying, Jens, now it's the time that you forget what you have done before, and that you're basically just focusing on leadership. That you focus on leadership, and even that because it was more in a technical context where I was knowing exactly what people should be doing and how things work. He was saying, forget it. Act if you are not having any idea about it anymore. And it's very, very hard in the beginning, but it will help you to succeed as a leader because the team feels that you truly trust them and truly empower them. So for the person who was asking this question, it's really important that you learn to do this. If not, you're most probably not the right person for a leadership position, because if you're a leader, you are for the totality and not about doing the task yourself. I'm getting already a couple of questions. Let's take the next one straight away from Paul. I will put them, let's see how that works. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, you can't see that definitely. Something I will try how to work next time. So how do you best delegate without making your team members feel like you're simply dumping work on them instead of doing it yourself? I think it's very important to, one thing as a totality, have a clear understanding of what the role of the leader is, what the role of the manager in the context of the department is, or the smaller team, so that you have a conversation in general. It's like, I'm not just dumping things to you. I'm responsible for the totality, and I just have a lot of things which we need to coordinate as a team, and everyone needs to do their task. In that specific part, I think it really depends on what the topic is and how the engagement between the leader and the manager with the team member is. I was giving the example inside of the webinar as well that delegating a task is always an opportunity to motivate someone. Delegating a task is really important to explain the other person why this person was chosen to do this task. And if you are able to do that as a leader, the person will be happily doing that task. And sometimes that means being honest and saying, hey, you're the only person that's available right now. I know you don't like this, but it needs to be done, and that's part of your job. So it's also you're fulfilling a role as a leader in an organization to kind of succeed with the totality of the organization, which means, hey, there's a business plan, there's a business need, and we're supposed to get the organization into a direction. If you're very honest with your team members, that will help them as well to understand, yeah, okay, it's not always kind of the nice things which I get. Sometimes that means as well, I need to do things which I don't like. Though that I believe as well as a manager, you should do sometimes the worst task yourself to show the team that you're contributing to the wider team and to the company. So thanks, Paul, for your question. I hope that answered it a little bit. When you delegate the whole role, how do you keep people on track? So that was the second part of the webinar where I talked about how do you delegate the wider responsibility of the role you have? And that question was in that direction. So I think it's the example was about that you take the role description, build the role description, and from that role description, you basically delegate the full responsibility, give the authority and the resources for the person to be able to lead themselves. And that's, of course, kind of a starting point. It still needs, and that's maybe where the question comes from, keeping them on track. It's really about, you need to have a constant dialogue with your employees. You need to have a constant dialogue with your team members on an ongoing basis to motivate them to be part of what's going on. It's not just, hey, now I delegate the role description to you and off you go. I think it's really about having goals where you lead them together, goals as a team, goals as a company, and understanding the totality and how do you contribute to that. It's very, very important part, not just dropping the role descriptions, having a really clear role and goal definition for people. And then it really depends on how long you work together, how small your team is, how big your team is. If you're in a hybrid environment, if you're in an international environment, it's all different, but it's really important that you have specific goals for individuals and specific goals as well for the team so that everyone can contribute and chip into the totality. Next question we got here is, how do I delegate if a person is not motivated to work? I think there are a couple of layers to this. So one thing is delegating and one thing is motivating. And of course, delegating a task can be a motivating thing, but it can as well a demotivating thing. If there is a person in your team that is not motivated to work, it's very, very important that you understand why this is the case. Everyone has personal circumstances in their lives where they're not motivated to work. I have been there, getting a child, having a busy family life. It's not always the best thing to do to go to work. Sometimes it's good as an excuse to leave home, but it's really all about understanding of what the context of that person is. Why is that person not motivated in that point in time? Because most probably that's shifting and there are always waves with teams and team members. We are all human. So understanding where this person comes from, why this person is not motivated is number one. Or is it just related to that task? If it's just related to that task, then we go back to the other answer I gave, which is enabling the person to understand why you have selected that person, what the goal of this task is, and how this contributes to the wider context of the department and or company. If you're able to do that, then of course you need to have a conversation if that's still not helping to motivate them, to find out what's the reason and go deeper into that. And that could be another live session just on that question, but I just keep it high level today. I hope that's okay. So, in case anyone has questions, feel free to put them into the chat. I might have technical problems that I can't see. I know that LinkedIn is working because I got it from Paul. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. If you're interested in going back into the webinar, which is wearesucceed.com, wearesucceed.com, and just sign up and you can watch all the different webinars and of course the Q&A, all the different videos we do around this, and we get a couple of very, very interesting contributors in for the future educational topics. I have another question which came in here, is what to do when a team member is not delivering the task in time and I look bad because of that. Just recapping from the webinar, we talked about delegating a task, so and not micromanaging the other person, so that the person basically does it, and even if they fail, it's good. Of course, if it's going to the end that a person is not delivering the task in point in time in the quality you expected and the quality you agreed, and you look bad because of that, one thing, I think it's 100% your responsibility. If you look bad, it's your problem because you haven't led the person in the right way. That's number one. But of course, this can happen. So what to do if that happens is, one thing is understanding why this happened, analyzing afterwards, having a conversation with the person. Why did it happen? Because there are most probably reasons. Maybe you haven't explained it, like we said last time in the webinar. Maybe you haven't explained it, you haven't delegated properly, so that the person was not aware of the importance, the urgency, whatever the context is. And I just believe that a person is not doing that just for the manager or the leader to look bad. So I'm just guessing this in that context at least. So it's really about finding out what was the root cause that it happened and then fixing it for the next time. For me, it's not meaning that you should not give any task anymore to that person, because it's a learning process. Specifically, if you're a young leader, you need to learn this over time. And as well, if you're an experienced leader, it's often good to remember yourself on what delegation means. Going back to the basics is often the hardest, because I'm a leader since, I don't know, at least 15 plus years right now, where I've had manager responsibilities with people reporting to me. So being in that situation, sometimes I as well need to remember myself, like, hey, this is what it is about. You are now in a new team context, or you just got a new team member, or a team member that has worked a lot of time with yourself. Then it is often for me as well, okay, remember how the basics was. What do I need to do to delegate properly, and how do you manage that going forward? So it's really all about looking back, find the root cause of why this happened. Another question I have here is, what do we have? On the role description, we have the company profiles, but I believe they are not detailed enough. Can I just change them? I mean, I'm an innovator. Of course you can. I know in a corporate context, that's always kind of a little bit difficult in changing role description. For the purpose of delegation, I think it's absolutely fine. You will not have any problems with the HR department, whoever has a look at that. It's more important to have a frame. If we go back to the webinar, it was about the frame, and you need to define what is inside of the frame with what you delegate. So the role description I gave, and job description, however you call that, is basically an example of how you can fill in the frame. You can of course do that as well with other tasks, where you just say, this is the purpose, this is the goal we want to achieve, these are the metrics we want to achieve, these are the resources needed, and that's where we are going. So if you have an existing role description or profile, like the person called it, of course you can use that and use it as a base, and then change it on an ongoing base. Because for me, at least from a delegation perspective, this role description we talked about is not a kind of something that's not fluid. For me, it's fluid because demands of the organizations are changing. needs of the customers are changing. So it's also that the roles we are working in, though that you maybe most probably if you have this profiles in an organization, it's already a larger company, though that is a corporate, let's call it corporate setting, and most of the corporates, the big ones, are not that agile in moving different role description because there's a lot of things that are connected to role description. Still, from a day-to-day business, what you delegate and how you work with the people is very, very important to connect and as well change that. If you understand that these metrics are not the right metrics to lead you to where you want to be as a team, as an organization, supporting your customers in the best way, change it. I'm all about changing what is needed and stick with the things that work and go forward with that. So, very, very important to get that. Anyone up for another question? I have no questions in my question toolbox here. These are all the questions I got. If you have more questions, please post them into the chat. I see quite a lot of listeners or watchers in this case. If you have questions, just post them in. If I can't see them, I will try to pick them up for one of the next Q&As. Saturday is the next webinar. Saturday, it's, 6 p.m. Central European time, which is noon, lunchtime in New York, and it should be 9 a.m. in the morning in LA. I'm always giving the different time zones so that people know which time we're going live. We will do it again live, most probably even live streaming this time as well, because it's enabling us to reach a couple of more people. And if you want to see the recording, if you want to get the PowerPoint from the webinars, you're always welcome to go to wearesucceed.com, sign up. There's no cost in signing up. It's all for free, and it's going to stay for free for everyone who wants to get leadership education in this world. We're really about taking this to the next level and helping a lot of people in this world to lead better in their lives and as well in corporates. That's it for today. If nobody has any question, it was a pleasure being with you. 20 minutes. I think it's a good starting point. I've done a couple of Q&As which were way longer, but I think it's a good starting point. If you want to get the recording of this one as well, go to wearesucceed.com. Watch us in what we are doing. Follow us on social media. We are really, really happy if you give us some feedback and if you connect to us. Thank you very much for today, and see you on Saturday.